children are so vulnerable, especially from the age of 0 to 7 years old,
Mhm.
because they are like this little sponge
Yeah.
and they are absorbing everything. And they are absorbing everything with a child's mind, which
Yeah.
is the part that we need to understand. Everything that we saw in childhood, we interpret as a child mind.
Mhm.
And it's a child mind when your mom says, I don't know, I can't play with you right now because I have to cook dinner. What a child interprets is like, mommy doesn't love me.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me that my mother doesn't love me? And you start to building those beliefs that I'm not enough, I'm not worthy of love and everything. And then tomorrow comes in and you say, mommy, I have to tell you something. And she tells you no right now because I'm busy. And that is another confirmation that mommy doesn't love me. I'm not deserving of love. I'm not worthy of love and everything. And everything starts to pile up.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Cycles. I am Tasiyah. This is my mom, Laziena. We are your hosts for Breaking the Cycles. We are joined today with our very special friend, Karina, who is a psychologist and a
The therapist,
hypnotherapist and
a
a
healer,
healer.
energy healer.
Energy healers. Can't be good. But hi, welcome on to an episode. How are you?
Thank you so much for the invitation. And yes, I'm feeling very great today, like a 9 out of a 10.
And you're in Chile, right? I want to make sure I get that right.
Yes, I live currently in Chile. Well, now with the digital area, it's like everything is close by.
Love that. I completely. I'm in awe of the digital era. I'm a huge fan.
I literally live on the internet, so I mean. Well, Karina, tell us, how did you get into this world? What brought you
Which
in?
world? Like the physical? I'm just kidding. The one who's in college.
Well, at first I studied psychologist. I was always very inclined to the whole the mind thing, understanding people, helping people. So I was always very curious. And I love my career and I graduated and I started doing clinical psychology and everything. But then what I was experiencing is that people didn't have like this kind of transformation that I was hoping to see in my patients. And then I discovered like the ugly truth that they don't tell you, but there are a bunch of statistics about it that says that around 19% of the people who go to talk therapy actually don't have breakthroughs. They
Mhm.
don't have like this transformation or anything like that. So after that, I got a little bit disappointed. I went into corporate business. And when I was in corporate business, I did amazing. I was a human resources manager, leading several countries and all of that. But even despite all of that success, money, recognition, and everything, I wasn't feeling like fulfilled. I was actually very stressed. I was also very grumpy, very angry. Like I have all of these emotions, and still I haven't feeling like okay, like I'm walking my path or feeling even joy. So then I love how the universe send you signals, and sometimes the universe is very sweet and sometimes it gets really tired. And so if you're not paying attention, it just slap you in the face.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what happened to me. Like in a period of a month and a half, basically, I lost my job, I lost my boyfriend, I lost my friends, I lost my department. So basically, I lost everything that it was defining me. And like a very type of personality, I jumped back in, like, okay, let me find job, a department, and everything. But then I stopped because I realized, why am I such in a hurry to go back to a life that I wasn't feeling this fulfillment? So I decided to take a break and I see, okay, let me work on myself, let me heal myself, let me explore myself. And I try in that period, I try everything like yoga, I learned to play piano, I start doing different kinds of therapies, personal growth courses, anything that you can imagine. And some of these things help, but the thing that actually made me move forward was energy healing and hypnotherapy. With hypnotherapy, I learned and I truly understand a lot of why I was acting the way that I was acting. because, and I think this is was my main driver, is that I was stopping of putting blame into others
Mhm.
and start taking more responsibility on myself. It was like I made the choices, I made the actions that at the end get this outcome. So with hypnotherapy, I understand the why. But with energy healing, that's when I finally release everything that I was holding back. And for me, that opens like a whole different world, like a whole different expression of myself. Then I was feeling happy. I was connecting again with my purpose and everything. And coincidentally, these two groups where I was learning all these techniques, they also invited me to work with them. So I started working with them, they're seeing clients. And then I was feeling like these were like loose pieces. So I just, you know what, for me, it makes sense if we combine all of these things. So I decided to create my own method, and I decided to, you know what, I'm going to dive in, do all of this by myself, everything, and let's go with this because it feels right. And that's when I started my own practice and everything. And here I am.
I'm really glad that you stepped into that world.
You literally took the nosedive into like seeing how your field wasn't working out to making it your own and pushing forward. And like that's such like an inspirational thing as well. Be like that changes the whole nation of your own practice. What is, I don't want to say your biggest accomplishment, but what was like your biggest releasing moment for you of like coming to this point of where you're at in your life right now?
I think in my case, when I was doing energy healing, one of the first things that they teach you is to start with your family, especially with your mother and father. And the premises is that once you heal from that, it's like a house of cards that starts to topple apart. And in my case, it was like that. Once I heal mother, father, my brother, and my sister, I believe that was like a, whoa, like a liberation for me, because not only did I release myself with all of these negative emotions, but also I start to understand some truth that for some people might sound like ugly truth. So, for example, I start to see the real relationship that my parents had with me, that I have through all of my life, also the relationship with my brother, and even saw the part that it was bigger surprise for me, even the relationship with my sister. So knowing that, understanding all of that actually bring me a lot of peace, a lot of clarity. And for me, it truly opened myself to another expression of myself.
That's so profound. That's kind of when you were saying that, I understood what you meant because when it came to my relationship with Tasiyah, it's something that we were very so open about. It was it wasn't very good at all, and I felt like I failed her. So I was like, I got to figure out what's wrong with me. I I got to look and see what happened. So as I started to look, and I ended up seeing was how my parenting affected her. And so that was like, oh, with my parenting affected all of my children. So I worked on me. As I started doing more work on me because of that, I started to see that it was because I had experiences too in childhood. So I was like, okay, let's break that cycle, right? That's not the generational pattern ends with me, but it's so, and in that time, and all of this time that we have been together, so when I started working on myself, it wasn't easy to connect with Sia. It was a little hard, but it took like, I had to be patient. I had to also learn that I had to forgive myself because when I didn't forgive myself, I was basically parenting from what I needed from her instead of what she needed. And that energy was a block for her because she can't receive what she hasn't experienced. So the follow up to that was actually immersing myself in the healing process because I think that therapy gave me awareness, but healing is what gave me growth. Healing is what gave me the transformation. And so that helped me look at how I was parenting all three of my children and wanting to learn how I could do it differently from them. And as I keep learning more in psychology world, the saying is like from 0 to 3 is when we learn our nervous system attachment and our emotional attachment. So by the time we're 7, 8, our belief system are kicked in. So we could be 35 years old, but we are now operating from the mindset of that little boy or that little girl back in 8 or 9 years old. And we don't know that. So it was like, oh my gosh, there's so much layers to this. Each and every one, each of my children have those layers. So I needed to also do the work so that when Tasia can come to me and want to have a conversation about what her experience was like, I'm not immediately dismissing what she's saying and getting upset and feeling attacked. I'm listening for her heart to see what her and take ownership too. Like, yeah, that was the experience. And in that way we can repair because if there's no repair if I'm not acknowledging her experience at all. Even if I had a different experience in that moment, it's still what she experienced. It's what her heart felt. But it's also the behavior. The behavior could be dismissive of what she felt was unimportant. So it's, going to that deeper layer. So totally, like, as you were saying that, I'm like, oh my gosh, you totally understand the depths of relational intelligence. And you have to be able to step out and zoom out. I think you talked about the zooming out a little bit.
Mhm.
See that. So I appreciate you sharing that to tack on to your share.
Yeah, and that is absolutely true. I think that not most people, and especially parents, not most people realize and have that insight that whatever trauma that you're having, whatever triggers, whatever story, you're also projecting that to your own child and everything. And the part that they don't understand is that children are so vulnerable, especially from the age of 0 to 7 years old, because they are like this little sponge
Yeah.
and they are absorbing everything. And they are absorbing everything with a child's mind, which is the part that we need to understand. Everything that we saw in childhood, we interpret as a child mind. And it's a child mind when your mom says, I don't know, I can't play with you right now because I have to cook dinner. What a child interprets is like, mommy doesn't love me.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me that my mother doesn't love me? And you start to build in those beliefs that I'm not enough, I'm not worthy of love and everything. And then tomorrow comes in and you say, Mommy, I have to tell you something. And she tells you no right now because I'm busy. And that is another confirmation that mommy doesn't love me, I'm not deserving of love, I'm not worthy of love and everything. And everything starts to pile up. And what we need to understand, for example, what you explain is that sometimes when you have all of these traumas that are not unresolved, when you have a conversation with your children, sometimes they trigger you. And it's so easy for a child to trigger their parents because they go right there in the
Yeah.
trauma, right there with the trauma that we have with our own parents. And of course, you explode. It tells you something and you interpret it in a whole different thing. And then you start to having these relationships that are so hard to communicate with everyone and everything. And when you don't realize is that once you heal, all of these triggers disappear. And I always say my clients, imagine yourself in that situation that it usually triggers you to be completely neutral, to have no emotion whatsoever. Imagine the openness that you will have, that you will truly listen what your children is saying. It's like, oh, okay, it's talking about this. Imagine the other level of communication that you can have. And that's why I see so important for parents to start healing themselves first before they start telling children what to do or how to think or how to act and everything.
I agree. And I think coming from like the child's perspective, right? This is a whole new set of knowledge, a whole new set of skills that ongoing parents do need to know about, especially in the economic state that we're in right now, whether that's the US or worldwide state, literally bringing in a new life. It's over, you're already setting the tone for what your generational trauma was. By bringing it in, now you have a whole new set of healing for yourself and the future generation after that. So it's like, hearing the thought process of you need to heal yourself first before you can help another person, that's such a profound statement in itself. And it's so healing hearing that from any other adult or from anyone in general, because it's like that message is being sent out anywhere. Like any person you talk to, that message is going to be sent.
Yeah, yeah. And that is the thing that we all have to learn, yes, especially moms and dads.
I mean, for you, what's your experience on the other side of that? Like as far as the healing. I mean, I know we talk about it all the time.
I mean, like my favorite thing about healing that like was the most experiential was like doing the deep emotional work. It was literally working through the inner child and the shadow work and over like literally being able to forgive my father for the most devastating thing possible. To now, I used to live in that pain and I used to live in that darkness and that regret. And now I am like a completely different person as far as like I'm more motivated. I have my goals set. I have a life that I want to live. I live in happiness and joy and like being consistent and being an actual person. So it's like this whole healing journey is like a complete breath of fresh air. Like I have a second chance of another life. And it's like on our podcast, our little icon, our artwork is a phoenix. And the part of that that's always been my favorite thing is that you can come back from literally the worst things possible. You can always break a cycle every single day. There's always something that you can do. Like I think coming from the state of being unaware and knowing what cycles I needed to break versus now understanding every single one of my actions, every single one of my thoughts, it's like I can actually control my outcome. I can control my future. And I don't have to stress about that. And it's such a hard thing to like talk about with some friends because everybody's on their own path. You can't convince somebody to go to therapy and to go heal themselves. They have to make the decision for themselves too. And that was the thing with me. Like I had started therapy when I was 15, 16 years old. So I had always been a part of the psychology world. I'd always found it interested in it. But for me, it was like, well, it's not, I can't solve it for me. So I can help somebody else. And then going from 16, 17 with that mindset to 21, 22, yeah, 21 of those. It was a whole different thing. I felt like I can heal myself. If I can heal myself, then I can most certainly heal somebody else.
Mhm.
And I can most certainly help somebody else.
And I really like, Karina, what you said about mother and father wounds. Like, I think I can't speak for other parents. I could just speak from what my heart said. This first time I heard mother and father wound, it was unwillingness to explore it because I didn't want to face it because I was so mad at my mom. There was a period of time I was so mad at my mom and I had this disgust for my dad. And now it's completely different. Um I think some people worry, not some people, I was worried that it meant that I needed to forgive and I wasn't ready to forgive and I didn't want to because I had all this resentment built up. But ultimately, leaning into it, once I leaned into it, I saw that it wasn't really necessarily about forgiving them for them or what they did. It was an acknowledgement of what I went through. It's acknowledging that all those things that I'm saying in my head and all those things, reasons why I'm mad, they were validating them by going and looking at it. It's quite the opposite experience of what initially looking at mother and father wounds are. But I'd love for you to speak a little more on mother and father wounds because I think that's something that it's around, but it's still kind of new.
Yeah, and I like what you say also in the beginning because you're explaining about forgiveness. And sometimes forgiveness is so hard for other people to understand it, especially when you have lived like a big trauma. It's like people can judge you. Like, how can you be able to forgive that person after what they did to you? Are you crazy and everything? And the part that people don't understand is that when you're forgiving someone, you're not doing it for the other person. And it also doesn't mean like the person is off the hook. You can still make the person accountable and responsible. But when you forgive yourself, you actually do it for yourself. You release all of that baggage and you release all of that anger and sadness and everything. Because what I can see in many people is that all of that anger, all of that sadness, when it's fester inside of you, it turns into resentment. And that's what I see sometimes in parents who have the wounds of their own parents. They didn't deal with that anger, with that sadness, with that grief, with all that. And it turns into resentment. And since I never was able to deal it with my parents and everything, what do? They projected into their children. So my unresolved trauma with my mom, let's play that example, I don't know, that I never felt seen, probably I turn either the same version or quite the opposite. So either I turn into, yes, I don't pay attention to my children, or the other part that is too controlling. Like, I'm seeing you, I love you, but you have to do things my way because it has to be this and this. And either way, you're moving into trauma, and all you're doing is generating more trauma to the next generations. And sometimes with a with a parent, when you tell them like, okay, but do you realize that the child is not the problem because he doesn't want to do what you want to do? The problem is you trying to dictate what he or she has to do or think or feel or, and it's like, no, 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 because I know more, because I'm the adult and everything. And it's like, it's not really like that. And even if you see it on children, if you are a believer in spiritual and reincarnation, you can even think actually the children are more wise. They're still very so connected to the source that they can see things that we, for example, forget about. So actually, it should be the other way around. We should be paying attention to our children to actually absorb that wisdom that somehow we forgot or we put aside.
Yeah. I agree. And then also to add on to what you're saying is those behaviors shows up in the people, not only our children, but people that we love. So when we're dating or in kind of relationship that we go into, if I had resentment, when I had resentment towards my father and I didn't know, that resentment came off towards my spouse. So he could not meet any expectation. He was, like no matter because I wasn't able to receive too, because that there's this block, like I'm never going to receive. I'll give you an example. We talk about this a little bit. When I was around 6 years old or so, I saw my dad pass a gift over the yard, and I thought it was for me. And it turned out that I had a sister. It's like, yeah, so she's my sister now, so I don't even that part is irrelevant. And so in that moment, 6-year-old me made up the story that like that feeling came and at 6 I didn't know that, but as an adult then I go back to that moment and it's like I remember like I put a guard up, like I never want gifts from anybody and I attach my worth to that. So when my ex-husband would try to give me gifts, I couldn't receive it. I would refuse it, and that was how I was sabotaging love. Love was being exchanged and I didn't want it. And so no matter what he did, he could never you know, get it right because I'm subconsciously still like looking for my dad to blame for that. And that resentment is coming up in that relationship. And I think it also happens with, I mean, men and women too, but in my experience, when it comes to being open to other relationships, it can be a block because then all men become the problem. Not me, all men.
Yeah, and you have to understand also that because you still have this trauma that is unresolved, you keep attracting the same kind of men.
Hmm.
And you keep attracting the same kind of man because, and it has a sense, your partner usually work as a mirror. It reflects you the traumas, the triggers, the things that you have to resolve. And if you don't resolve that, you keep repeating the same person over and over again. And you think, no, this is different because he has a better job, serious and everything. But the core issue is keep repeating over and over again. So you're dating the same person, just in different bodies. And that is the other thing that people really need to understand is how to actually heal and deal with all of this trauma that it usually started, like you say, from a very young age. For example, my primary male figures, which was my brother and father, never showed to me love. My father was very emotional distance, and my brother was a bully. So it was like, okay, I never received, I don't know what masculine love feels like and everything. So of course I created this pattern that I'm looking for men who cannot show love. And what does that bring me? Okay, so I'm attracting men who want to take advantage of me, who say something but do something else completely and everything. And of course, it triggers me when I see him behave like a nice way with another woman, but with me, it doesn't have that kind of details and everything. And the part that you need to responsibilize is to say, okay, this is me. This is me repeating the trauma. I need to heal this. Otherwise, I will be keep attracting the same kind of man until I resolve my own issue. One thing, this is very personal, but one thing that I realized is that, and I realized this with hypnotherapy, one of my patterns with men was unfortunately I was looking for men who are unavailable. Either they're still very hung up with their ex, or worse, they have a relationship, and I'm the third woman. And when I deal with all of this and try to understand it, I understand. And sometimes it's just like the silly things that grown ups said, how could this affect a little child? But for me, it was a memory of a person that came into my house that he was looking for my dad. My dad wasn't in the house, so he left. So I told my dad, "Oh, I don't know, some guy came here. He was like this and this and this. He was asking about you. He was very nervous and he said, don't tell your mother and everything." And he went to look for, I never understood why, but I keep repeating in the fight that my mom and my dad had that I know that you have other children and I know that you have been with other women. So for me, my very young brain, what it makes is that this person that came probably was my brother. So probably I have a brother out there who hasn't been formally recognized by my father. And the pattern that I can, since I wanted to become any kind of woman except my mother, what I did unconsciously was, okay, you won't become your mother. Let's become this other woman that probably has another child with your father. So I was repeating that pattern in a way for me to deal with the recognition that my brother didn't receive. And it was like, how did my mind get conclusion to that web that you say? I don't understand. I don't even know if I really have a brother or a sister out there, but that's how the child mind works. And that's what I always say. Is you think that maybe you're saying things that it won't impact the children and everything, but everything gets absorbed. And you have to see that with a little child's mind, you start to making some dots. And my mind made those dots. And I was like, okay, I never imagined that the reason of this pattern was that.
I mean, that's so amazing that you got to that pattern though, because it's so deep. Tasiyah and I go to inner child workshop every 2 months or so. Actually, we go this weekend. And that's a lot of things that we see there too, is how deep the patterns go. So it's really cool that you're doing that in a different country. I love that. It's so important. I don't think
Yeah.
kind of work is, it's new. It feels new. It feels like it's new.
Yes. And that is the beauty of hypnotherapy. That's why I love hypnotherapy because I can do it by myself. Like, for example, I don't know, free writing, things like that. And things starts to, you connect a little bit with the subconscious and things start to flowing up. But if you really, really, really want to understand the origin, a hypnotherapy guided session can truly get there. For example, this insight, it didn't come from me. It came from a hypnotherapy session that we went like, okay, let's review the origin, everything. It was like this scene, then I connected to other scenes with my father's fighting and everything. And it was like, what is the connection? Is this. And what does it have to do with me? This other thing. And it was like, whoa. So I love hypnotherapy because it allows you and also to have another person to guide you to really to start making these connections that, for example, me doing journaling or inner child or shadow work would have never been able to get to that conclusion into those scenes. Yes, it's very interesting work.
That's definitely one of so it's one of the little niches that I've been kind of like wanting to tap into as well. Cause excuse me, I do more energy work, chakra work, but I have this way that I speak to your mind in a way, in your heart. And so it's like
I
I
call
don't
it
even
her
know.
magic because she's so sometimes when I know that I'm going through something, I can go to her and be like, okay, let's get to it because let's dig it out. Dig it out of the spoon. because she's able to take me there. So and she's very talented and naturally. Um, but it's just it's like I thoroughly have enjoyed listening to you share like what your practice is, what you believe in, because in the world of psychology, where like I have friends who are going into psychology, and even when I was also in school for psychology, the environment isn't always so like as open into vulnerability, like among
Mm,
therapist to therapist, like to share this is where you come from, this is what you're working on, this is what you like to bring out in other people. It's such like a closed off, quiet exchange. And so like to actually hear your heart and to hear your passion and like your drive behind it, it's really remarkable. And I am so proud to know that that we have you among our psychology world. Yeah.
thank you. Yes, I think that is because of the ignorance of people. But even now, for example, psychology is a science. But even now, I can tell you know what there are thousands of research, of study, experimental studies with peer review, which is like the highest way that you can prove that whatever theory and hypothesis is in the study is actually right. And there are so many who actually confirms things like energy healing, things like hypnotherapy, and all of that. I even remember when I was at the university that we read this study that it was about praying, that it was about three groups who were sick. All of them were sick. And one group is like, okay, nobody's doing anything for you, just go to the doctor. The other group was receiving praise, but from complete strangers. They were telling, okay, pray for him to recover. Okay, perfect. And then there was another group who were receiving praise, but for people they know, like family, friends, and everything like that. And they discovered that the people who actually got the praise from the family, their recovery time was way much higher than the other two groups. And the second group who was receiving the praise actually was also higher from the one that it doesn't. So that even shows you in a scientific way that, okay, praying that is also about energy and everything actually has an impact in you. And then I learned when I was much older, genetic actually shows you how your mind has the power to control, to switch on or off genes. So actually your gene expression is controlled by your mind. So whatever you have a cancer, for example, has nothing to do with your genes. It's all about your environment and your mind. And you created that. So wow, when you say that to people, it's like, can you imagine right now the power of your mind, the power of energy healing? It's like wow. And I love to work with both because I think that one thing that hypnotherapy and even psychology gives you is the reason. And I think that we as a human beings, when we have the reason, also gives you like a sort of closure. For me, honestly, energy healing was the thing that actually moved me more. But knowing the reasons also give me like a sense of peace. Like, okay, like now I understand. And then I realized the importance of also you can empty yourself. You can empty yourself with energy healing and you release all of the negative energy. Or what do you do after?
Integration.
So it's so important to exactly to also fill yourself with positive energy. And the way to do it is also with your mind by building empowering beliefs. That part is so important. And I actually learned this in the hard way because when I was working on myself and I did a lot of energy healing, I went back to an environment, I went back to the same environment, and in a way was trying to condition me again and everything. But then I realized that I was also feeling myself with some negative emotions. And that's when I saw the importance of, okay, release that, but once you release it, play something better. Play something better. Don't leave that void there because otherwise the void will be filled with something else. And if it fills with the same garbage of your environment that it was filled before, then it's like you lost all of the work.
Yeah. So you have to take the action when it comes to mind, body, soul connection. It has to I mean, first, like when you said really understanding it, I love that because being able to name it alone it's so powerful. But the transformation can't happen unless you actually release it in your body. And then, yeah, I mean, your steps are absolutely the right way to do it. Like, at least my experience, it has to be experiential. Part of the work that Tasia and I and my other children do as well is I had an opportunity to I always reacted in anger. Anger was always my go-to. And that's because I wasn't feeling heard. I was feeling dismissed. So it would come out in anger. And I had a chance to like face my father figuratively and have people say things that would be so bad that he would say to me. Not that he said them, but things that I imagined that he would say to me. And they're screaming at me, and I'm like yelling back, and fighting this mannequin. And I got that out. Maybe it was like 5 minutes or so, but it felt like 30 minutes. Well, maybe it was. But it was me punching and beating up this mannequin. And once I got to like 100% of letting that anger out, this wave of like I don't even get that angry anymore. It's so difficult to get that angry. But if I didn't integrate and made sure that every time I got angry, okay, where's this coming from? Whose anger is this for? What is happening? What is my emotional needs right now? And really pay attention to that and reparent that in that moment, I would not, I would just continue the cycle. So like healing has so many layers. It's not important to just have the awareness and that alone. It has to encompass all of the other things that you're referring to as well.
Yeah. And just like you say, it has to be something that people needs to experiment, because sometimes when you explain it, it's like either they it's too good to be true or something like that. But for example, you said something that is very good that I always try to explain to my clients. You just said that once you release all of that anger, you've never been able to get that level of anger anymore. And I love this because sometimes people talk a lot about emotional intelligence and all of that. And I'm a great believer that that thing is just another form of control. What they teach you is okay, it's like in public and in these relationships, you have to act like this. So you're feeling high emotion, is like swallow that until you go to your house, to your bedroom, and then you can express yourself. For me, it's like super unhealthy. And the thing that I love to explain to people is that the thing that you don't understand is once you're healed, all of those high emotions, they disappear. You don't forget that level of anger or even sadness anymore. Because what you don't understand is when you do get those level of anger, it's because they're triggering you. It's not a whatever the people or the person did or tell you or otherwise. It's just that that thing combined with your own trauma and created like this explosion. And that is why you see all those actions. But once you're healed, you become so emotional neutral. And when someone does something that you don't like, or they pass through some boundaries that you place and everything, you can stop them, but very calmly, like, you know what? Doesn't resonate with me anymore. If you're going to behave like this, I'm going to exit, or you're going to regulate yourself and respect my boundaries. And I laugh because sometimes people say, that's a lie. You don't react like that. And I say, yeah, right now I react like that because that's the way the healthy people react. You don't need to swallow your emotions. You need to heal. And then the good emotions start vibrating out of you. And when you have those low level emotions, it's very low level. It's not in the high intensity that you're used to see in other people.
I agree with the emotional intelligence aspect of what you're sharing because I think emotional intelligence and emotional awareness are completely different things. I find that someone who was emotionally intelligent used it, weaponized it. Uh, and then I felt like I was the problem, And I'm sure there were times when I did the same thing too, but understanding how people behave is not the same as really feeling like you have to go beyond the behavior. There's a wound there. There is a trigger. There's an unmet need there. It's not just the behavior. And if you just stay there, there's no going forward. You just end up being stuck in the same cycle.
Mm.
And that's also a thing where it's like you don't you bottle up that emotion because this is another one where our thoughts create our reality. So what we think is okay, so we just have to change our thinking. We have to feel it.
Yeah.
We have to feel it because once there's a switch that happens, once we start feeling it, then the thoughts become different. That's how you rewire it. And so there's so much books that talks about, rewiring your thoughts, but I feel like it gets so missed, and I want to change that, but I'm only one person. Well, I am only one person. I can't change it, but it's like no, that like there's so many books that have caused so many I don't know some, and I guess it's also how people interpret books. I'm not trying to blame the book. They did give the steps, but the missing part is like no, you have to now connect. It has to have harmony. There has to be a coherence between the thoughts and the feelings. They just don't. That alone isn't. It's just going to keep you in a loop too. So I appreciate that you understand that.
Yes, and there are also a lot of studies about the coherence, like you say, from the mind and the heart. And when that happens, that you actually can start healing your own body, even heal disease and everything. And that is also like the core of manifestation too. Because in manifestation, if one of these two pieces is missing, you don't manifest in the right way. So the only way to change your reality is, like you say, to have, of course, empowering beliefs, but also the high vibrating emotions that goes with it. And it's not hard to feel those high vibrate emotions. You can feel it with gratitude, with acceptance, and then you can start migrating to love and joy and everything. It's actually, if you made it a practice, it's actually very simple to keep yourself vibrating in those high emotions.
I think it's so cool because, like, so 2 years ago, I had made my decision on restarting my life, right?
Mhm.
And the first year I spent trying to figure out what I wanted my life to be like. I wanted a future goal. I wanted to see, what were my little intermediate goals. And I had to heal my mother and my father wounds. I had to heal the wound of being the older sister. I had to heal, well, all my relationship wounds in that self because I learned that my partner was a mirror of myself, but also a mirror of my father wounds. So understanding all of that, and then also understanding what my work ethic is, how I drive myself at work, what are my feelings surrounding work, and how to change my money beliefs. Like I had to literally go through every single one of my limiting beliefs and heal them, so that way I could process and I can actually live life and enjoy it. So it's December now, literally December 1st as we're recording this. And I came across one of my old letters while I was like reorganizing my room that I wrote to myself back in February. And it was a love letter to myself that this year is going to be a grounding year. And so that next year is going to be the year that I get to take off and live my life. I manifested what I wanted true love to feel like. I manifested for money to come and ever flowing energy. I manifested how to be like a soulful person to have control over my emotions. And now I'm going into that year having all of the things that I manifested. And
Beautiful.
it took a lot of hard work, but it is so rewarding.
Yeah.
Like this work, it's like you don't know the effects of it until you've experienced it yourself.
That's right. You don't know until you experience to yourself. But I love it because you are like the embody also that healing doesn't take a lifetime. Yes, it's a hard work and you have to go deep and really be humble and forgiving and having all this love. But you can do it in a short period of time. And after that, all you have to do is like maintaining yourself. And sometimes you can encounter like, I didn't realize that I have this limiting belief, but now I have the tools of how to heal it. So in a way, it's even kind of fun. It's like, oh, okay, now let me heal this limiting belief and let me see when my life transform once I heal this. And that's like the joyful part. And I always try to tell people, you know what? It's like a whole different way of living that is so much more fulfilling than you blaming others and not taking responsibility of yourself, and have like this cushion where you, oh, nothing is my fault, everything is your fault, but you keep living in this frustration and all of this anger that gets you nowhere.
Yeah. I think when it comes to watching to see it do her work, it's been beautiful because I know like I've also had to heal those wounds too. So it's like, not stopping her from doing it. I want her to do it. I encourage her to do it. Even if it means mom needs a little cuss out, that's okay. But it's like, sometimes when she's deep in the work and there's a lot of tears and it's heavy, sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's 3 days. And sometimes, she ebbs and she flows. But I trust her journey, that she knows that I'm here, and whatever she needs, I can, I'll step in anytime, right? But it's still her journey to do it. And I've also experienced that sometimes I'll go a day, right? The day will be a good day. Overall, be 9 day, right? But in like every hour for like 15 minutes, I was bawling. Or for maybe 6 hours of that day, I was crying. And it was hard, but it was so soulful because it's like I feel like that cry is sacred. It's purging out all of those limiting beliefs out of me. It's really it's putting back love in, like, it's refilling me with love. Even though I'm crying it out, when I'm done, the love that's there now, it's even better. And sometimes it's just me looking at myself and be like, oh my god, Laziena, I love you so much. And just having that like self integration, and seeing, the ways that I abandoned myself, or how my mother wound taught me to stay small, or whatever the case is, right? But on the other side of that, I get to like see her thrive. I get to see her come up with ideas, like, especially emotions are teachers too. Our anger is saying that we're passionate about something. There's so many layers to the feeling. So it's like I love that at first, like, it's hard and it can be, and sometimes I don't even want to be in that space or whatever. But on the other side of it, it's worth it. It's such a different feeling. That's hard to explain because it is so truly a feeling from within. I even always tell when someone's done it, because their words are softer, their eyes are softer, the way the word is coming out of their, it's like it's embodied out of them, and it's just radiating. It's really a beautiful thing to be a part of and witness, even if it's tough.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And sometimes emotion has like a bad rap.
Mhm.
For example, it's like crying. Like, no, crying is bad, especially for men. It's like, you're a man, don't cry. And when science have already taught us is that when you lose tears, it also creates, in that moment that you're losing tears, you're creating new neural pathways. So actually your brain is rewired so what you say is totally true when you say that, no, you're releasing and having like a new mindset and everything. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. You release and new neural pathways are building.
Yes.
And it's a healing process by itself. And that's why I always say, if you want to cry, cry. Sometimes I'm watching a movie and I start crying and I enjoy it. It's like, I don't know why I'm crying, but
I
yes.
love a good movie. A good cry. Sometimes you just need it.
Yeah. Well, I have my webpage, which is Karina Pontiles. And also they can follow me on social media. I'm in Facebook and Instagram, also by Karina Pontiles. And yes, and they can reach me there. They can learn a little bit more about my work. But if they are truly interested and they want to dive, they can directly book a discovery call so that we can see where exactly are you struggling, what do you want to focus, and create like this beautiful plan that you can, like I say, you can heal in a very short period of time.
Yes, I agree. Collapse the timelines.
Exactly.
Closing remarks.
Yeah, and for our listeners, what's like one message that you'd like to, from your heart to theirs, what would you like to say?
I would love for people to have like this open mind that healing is a very deep, but honestly, is also a very easy process. Like everything, there will be resistance because your mind and your body always search for familiarity. And even us in our dark place and everything is familiar to them, so they want to persist on that. But if you push through all of that and you get to the other side, is a life that is so hard to describe because it's so beautiful and so magic that sometimes I say, I don't know how I spent so many years of my life living in the other way. In frustration, not wanting to get up from bed, like thinking, no, please, 5, 10, 30 minutes more, having this grumpy face, having arguing with people and everything at the end of the day feeling like this life is like this the magic. I don't know. For me, the only magic that I was witness is when I was in my vacation and I was traveling and everything. That's when I feel joy, like, oh, okay. But now I say, how different is my life now when I wake up even before the alarm and I'm excited. It's like I'm excited. It's like, okay, now today I'm going to do this and everything. And I love when people met me, like they say, oh, you have such a bubbly personality. And it's like, you didn't know me before. I was like completely the opposite. People actually were afraid of me. It was on that level. And right now they see me like this. So, what I want people to understand is that the change is doable, is quick, and all you have to do after that is maintaining yourself. And believe me, if you experience this, the last thing that you want to do is go back to the old life, to your old self. So it's all about opening our minds, experiencing something new, and actually give yourself the courage to say, okay, let's go deep and let me heal, because this is also proven, not only my own traumas, but for the generations that will come. 7 generations. You're healing 7 generations from the past and the future. It's like, okay, it's not only a service for yourself, it's also a service for your whole generation tree. So even if you don't do it by yourself, do it for others.
Transforming the cycles. Thank you so much. I appreciate I'm so glad that Nasheed connected us. I get to hear your heart. I get to see a little more of your journey and hear your message. And it's really pure and it's radiant. Yeah, it was a good conversation. I liked it.
Thank you so much for the both of you for inviting me to your podcast. And I have to say, it's so beautiful to see mother and daughter united in a healing process, because not only can you cheer yourself up, but you can also be the catalyst for the change of your entire environment, from your family, your friends, and everything. And I can only imagine what your friends see about the relationship of the two of you and say, oh, I want that.
Received. I received that. Thank you. It's beautiful to hear. I know we bask in it all the time, but that made me feel seen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Breaking the Cycles. We will see you on next one. Bye.